You're listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We're glad you're here and believe you will be too. And now, Deidre Reigel with today's guest.
Welcome to Tom Bailey today on my Hope and Healing Radio Show. This is Deidre Reigel, and again, I have the privilege of having a wonderful guest named Tom Bailey. So, Tom, I'm going to take a minute and tell our listeners a little bit about you before I get into that first question. So Tom Bailey played drums with a show that I had years ago called The Performance Company. It was a lovely review show, and he was a wonderful drummer. We had such a great time together. So I've actually called him a percussionist because he was so creative and so expressive with those drums. Tom then went on to play with a variety of bands in various styles, and again, that speaks to what a wonderful drummer he was and still is, by the way. In addition to music, he also had a career with the Salvation Army and then was a nurse's aide. So you see, this is a man of great heart and expression. Now, in 2012, he suffered partial paralysis to his left side due to an auto accident. He's had some surgeries, but he's now confined to a wheelchair, and we'll talk more about that during the interview itself. As he was recovering from one of his surgeries, he got news, and this was in 2016, that his son had committed suicide. In spite of these and other opposition, Tom looks for opportunities to not only find meaning and purpose in life, but what he can offer to encourage and inspire others to find meaning and purpose in their lives. A very remarkable man is on the phone with me today, and I really wish to give honor to you, Tom. Welcome to my show. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. I was waiting for you to just call me Beetle. We have Beetle. You always said Tom Beetle Bailey, and that's a nickname that stuck with me ever since you guys were announcing me during or after performances.
I remember that. So
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tom Beetle Bailey, and if I call
right.
him Beetle every now and then, we'll know that I'm talking to one and the same person. I love that. How did it ever come about, Tom, the Beetle?
Well, the cartoon Beetle Bailey, my dad at one point was in the Air Force, and so he got the nickname Beetle Bailey. And then when I would be up on stage or with a group, instead of just yelling, "Go Tom," my dad would yell, "Ah, Beetle," you know. So it was just Tom's very, very familiar name. And my dad's kind of bothered because his first name is Edward. My real middle name is Edward. My children think my middle name is really Beetle. My dad was like, "It should be Edward again." I'm like, "Hey, you started it."
Uh-huh. Well, I hope your dad is going to listen to this interview because he's really going to get the Beetle driven home. But, Tom, I really want to give a shout-out to your parents as well because they were always so supportive of you and the show, and I found their support and their presence to be such a delightful addition to the energy that we all created in those magical days.
Sometimes, no offense to you by any means, because we had a pretty big troupe, but they said sometimes they would spend more money to see me than what I was getting paid to play. They really invested in me in every way.
Yes.
And they enjoyed the all-you-can-eat buffet. My dad got his money's worth, but yeah.
Well, that's the mark of wonderful parents when they are that supportive. I think just a great shout-out. And, of course,
Amazing.
You're worthy of investment, as we all are.
Oh.
So, Tom, you have a blog now, and you've been through a lot of shipwrecks in your life. And I go into your blog. I notice that your blog is filled with stories and articles that I believe you hope will encourage others. So that's admirable right there. Now, we talk about the writing. How does writing affect and help you personally?
Oh, it has been so helpful. I have dyslexia, and I only read on like a 7th grade reading level, and it prevented me from completing college. It almost prevented me from getting into 2 different tech schools that I went through. So I have trouble reading, and I struggle with that, but I'm still able to write, and I needed a good editor, really, but it's an escape for me. I've found that, look, circumstances in life we cannot control, but writing gives an opportunity. If you're writing fiction, you can put yourself there in that, fictional world. If you're writing nonfiction, you can get a true perspective of how things really are. If you're reading or writing a biography, you can focus on that person, or an autobiography. It gives you a chance to be honest and perhaps even discover things about yourself that you never even really thought about in detail before. My blog gives me the platform to express myself and share that with other people. And as you know, I'm handicapped, but I could use my phone and type everything on my phone, just as if I was sitting at a desk with a computer keyboard in the palm of my hand. I'm literally able to, write anywhere, anytime. And writing is a type of art to me. And I'm left-handed, so I'm in my right mind. And it is something that you can invest in it regardless of how much money you have or you make. It's something that you could invest in, and there are many forms of art, and writing is just one of those forms, and it helps me process my life and the world around me, as well as an escape from the world around me sometimes. And I'm not sure exactly how, but it works for me. So for me, it's been really good.
Well, I will share this common ground with you, Tom, because in of course, to the note to the audience here, Tom and I haven't spoken in years, so we're just now really getting caught up, which I hope will be a fascinating aspect for our listeners. In 2004, my personal life became very difficult, and I was very challenged on many levels. And it was then that writing opened up to me. And years prior, one of my professional colleagues had said to me, in all seriousness, Deidre, I believe there is a composer in you. And at the time, I scoffed what he said, and said to a group of fellow composers sitting on the board of a group and of composers, and I said, I'm the conductor here. I just conduct what all of you geniuses write. And again, this gentleman reiterated his theory that there was a composer in me. So what ignited that composer, what awakened that composer, was deep personal emotional difficulty. And I found that writing was the only safe outlet I had where I could really express myself and be true to those expressions, and then began to realize, if I'm going through these kinds of things and I'm using writing to heal myself, what can this mean for others? And, of course, for me, that has turned into many, many, many pieces of music, some of which have been produced, others yet to be produced, and a book called My Letter to My Father about healing my relationship with my father, which was foundational to my other deep healings. So I think for many of us, writing any form of art is this powerful form of expression. And I would imagine, Tom, that for men especially in our culture, where we don't always honor the expression of the male, we wish for our males to be stalwart and stoic and just get on there and slay the dragon. And women seem to hold you men accountable to that, and not really honor the fact that not all of us honor the fact that you have feelings and you really need to express them, therefore you don't, etc. But we wish that you did, that whole paradoxical conundrum. I think one of the things that any form of art or creativity can do for all of us, especially people who find it difficult to express themselves through maybe speaking or languages of love, the real platform to really honor our feelings and express them in healthy, creative, and helpful ways. So I really, really, really want to just salute you for having the courage to write honestly about yourself and to speak about what writing means honestly. Yes,
it does take some courage. It's scary sometimes, not to do it, but to put it out there and to publish it and to and now with the World Wide Web to throw it into cyberspace like a message in a bottle and see what response. But your book, too, is not only your writing, but letters of other people that you gather, too, correct?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So it shows you that there's so much to be offered. I think we associate the word celebrity, or we think of certain people as a celebrity, or that they're any more special than anybody else. And that's not the case at all. We're all, a celebrity in the sense that we have something to offer to other people and something to celebrate.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so I agree with you. We all are here to take our personal paths and celebrate. So, Tom, again, you and I met, and you were the percussionist, and you were just such a wonderful part of the show that I had in those years. And right away, I was able to see that you are an artist in so many ways. And so, let me address the artistic person that you are. Other than writing, what are some of the other things that you're doing today that are artistic?
I'm glad that you asked about that, because I really never considered myself an quote-unquote artist. But as I started doing it, other people started saying, oh, you're a good artist. And I thought, I guess I am an artist. But when I'm not in my wheelchair to get around, I pretty much stay in like a jerry chair. It's a recliner that takes the pressure off my legs and my lower back and my hips, and I'll use a clipboard and a small manageable piece of paper, and I'll just sketch and doodle and draw. Other than writing. And typing it out with my phone, that's the way I'm able to express my art. But because of my situation, I can't work on a big, large canvas or, work with paints, because the sitting position is very difficult. So I've found it interesting to decorate rocks. That sounds strange, right? But art rock, basically, it's where you have small, smooth stones or rocks, usually between 2 or 3 inches. And I found that even with permanent markers, I can sketch on them and draw on them and color them. And I limit my time in the wheelchair because of the pain. But I think back to when I was a certified nurse's aide, a CNA, taking care of quadriplegics or paraplegics. A few of them, they would put a paintbrush in their mouth and they would move forward and paint on the canvas. And I'm in the prone position to manage my pain, but I'm still able to hold that rock and express myself artistically on that rock. It's not a big, huge canvas, and it's not paint that is messy and hard to clean up. And I don't want to create any more work for my wife than need be. But there's a project or a campaign called Kindness Rocks, and there's several Facebook groups. Because I live in St. Augustine, I'm part of St. Augustine Rocks, and it's amazing because it's a way for me to express myself artistically, because it's a small area. It's not a book, or it's not a big, huge thing, but it's something that can be done simply, and it's great when you're actually able to see the effects and the smiles on other people's faces. And whether it's through Facebook or when we are out and about, we will place the stones in obvious places. We're not really hiding them, but then someone will find them, or I can give it to somebody. Much easier than carrying around a huge canvas of art. So it's just been terrific. And when I started doing it, I didn't know it was a thing, but apparently it is a big thing, and it's catching on over the past few years. So that for me right now has been the way for me to express myself artistically.
Well, it's beautiful portable art, and I will tell you that some of the most precious pieces I have are little stones with words inscribed on them,
Yeah.
or pictures that activate my subconscious or bring me peace. Art has many forms. Visual art especially has many forms that we can look at. And some just holding a rock in your hand, it'll have a certain feeling about it, or as I say,
or in your pocket.
Yes. Or my purse or whatever. These are very important things, and of course they're part of Mother Earth. And of course, if we think about the fact that science is now discovering that this planet and our solar system, our universe, is made of sound, and we come back to a scripture that many of us know: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. The Word being sound, in my interpretation, that we're all made of sound. Everything has a vibrational frequency to it, and just holding sometimes that piece of Mother Earth for me can be very grounding. And then if there's art on it that gets into my brain and inspires me, how much the better. So again, this is a place I really want to offer you a big salute and a big honoring, Tom, because who knows what your art means to somebody else as you pass it along, and any of us knows the great lengths that our gifts that we give to others can actually go. And you mentioned seeing the smile on someone's face, and that's how do we put a price tag on that? That's really, really wonderful. Now you've spoken about your physical needs at this point and what you've been through in the human body, and if you care to share with our listeners a little bit more about that, it might be lovely. And again, I respect your wishes on how much you desire to share. But I remember, you as the drummer who came in and set up his drums and played a fabulous show and added so much to the show. And I remember it was your last 2 years of high school, which sounds so amazing, to be in a professional show, your last 2 years of high school, and went on into your college and your career age years. But now, now you're finding yourself living life daily in a wheelchair, trouble using your legs, post-accident. So the question that I'm sure everybody who's listening has is, do you still play the drums?
Yeah, I get that question from everybody that I've lost contact and then we reunite and whatnot. And and I know if I say no, they feel awful. But the answer is yes, I do still play. It's in my heart. And I don't know how the opportunities came as they did with not only your troupe, but other bands and groups and things like that. I mean, I did my part, but opportunities would just open up. I mean, it was amazing. But now I'm not able to commit to playing part-time, let alone full-time professionally or with a group. I'm sure I could do some studio work, but what I do now is mainly use electric drums. I have what's called SPD-30 roll-in octopad. And, when you're handicapped or disabled in one way or another, you just have to live life and maybe do life a little different. But the important thing is that you still do it. And you might not right away. After the accident, my whole left side, I could not move. My left arm, my left leg, and I'm left-handed. So I had to have several surgeries. And the surgeries worked, and I tried to go back to work, but the nerves were destroyed. So I have what's called polyneuropathy. And so my nerves are all messed up, and I can't get my legs to work correctly. And sometimes I even have trouble with my hands and my arms. But you just have to, give it time. But it's in my heart. So I basically just picked up sticks. And I already had the octopad from before. And I thought, maybe I can put it in front of me just like a desktop. Well, like I said before, I have trouble even sitting in that position. The nice thing is with the octopad, it allows me to sit there for a certain amount of time until the pain starts increasing, and then I can just lean back, and it's still there. I can't use my feet on pedals, but that doesn't matter because this pad offers eight different sounds to a drum set. and all kinds of percussion, So whatever the opposition is you face, when you desire to do something, anything, it becomes strong enough in you where, where there's a will, there's a way, and you find that way to feel that desire. It may not look like what others do or how others do it. It may be done the way others do it, but maybe with something just a little different, but you can still accomplish something. And that really makes you feel good, overall or in general. When you're able to express what's in your heart, I think that's when we really grow and we progress and we feel like we're accomplishing something. And then when it's shared with others, it's amazing because you'll always have the haters out there, I'm sure, but it's amazing how even the little things can encourage somebody else who maybe isn't as worse or is worse, and yet they're like, well, he can do it, so maybe I can too.
Absolutely, Tom. We all are here to help each other, and we aggregate it. What I hear you saying is we do what we can do, and we do it to the best of our abilities. All of us on the planet have something that we deal with. So, so all of this, then, we're talking about hope and your art. So, what do you hope to accomplish with your art, including your writing?
When you said hope, that I just had a flashback. You played the piano and I think also flute for a song that I actually composed called Living Hope. Do you remember that?
Oh, Tom.
You remember that?
Oh, my
gosh. And my sister sang, which you would normally sing things, but you played. Actually, I think we got a piano player, and you played the flute. And my sister sang, and I had it all written out.
I remember
musically,
this.
Yeah. And I have been going back to that. That was, I was probably 17 or 18 years old. But I keep going back to that hope. What I hope to accomplish, well, first of all, art for me, it keeps me out of trouble. And as my wife and I both like to say, art is cheaper than therapy. And,
yes.
I've found out that in many ways art is better than therapy or sometimes more productive. I don't underestimate a good doctor or a therapist, but they can only do so much. The rest is up to the individual.
Yes.
And what I hope to accomplish is simply express myself and don't keep what I learn or what I'm working through, don't keep that to myself, but to simply share it in music, writing, or other forms of creative expression. Art really can be priceless, where it's not for sale because it's just priceless, and it's valued in the eye of the beholder. But if that eye just holds on to it and never shares it, how can it benefit anybody else? And I believe art is simply desire and expressing that desire. You have a desire, and then you express that desire. And not everyone will get it or understand it or appreciate it. But then again, some will truly be touched and moved by it. And some of the things that people like that I've done, I'm not even particularly happy with it, or I can see the flaws in it, but they don't, and they treasure it for some reason. It's scary, and like you were saying earlier, it does take some courage. It's scary for me to put my art out there or for me to put writing out there because, I fear rejection or unfair criticism, not helpful criticism, just mean people, But when I stopped worrying about what others think, I came to find that there are people who like it. And when I see someone enjoys what I share, what I've done artistically in a drawing or painted, even on a simple rock or with clay, or a story that I've written, or even a drum part I've rhythmically created, that's very rewarding. And in so many ways, it helps me feel good and feel better. But even when I'm doing it, it's rewarding and healthy. before I even share it, it's helpful to me mentally, physically, spiritually, and then I share it. And I share it not because I feel like it's some great piece of art that will change the whole world, but because I want, I don't want the recognition. I just want to share something that I believe has helped me, and perhaps it'll help somebody else, or somebody else will find some type of beauty or encouragement or hope in it. And it's the same with this interview, which I'm so glad you asked me to share. And once we get over criticism in our own heads, let alone what other people might say, we start to openly share with others, and that has a real healing effect, on our mindset and on our mental health.
Oh, yes. Well, Tom, you had revealed to me, and I believe I have your permission to share it with our listeners, that you have struggled with some mental health issues. And on top of that, it just broke my heart to hear that you have a son who committed suicide due to mental health issues of his own. So you're the person living in the trenches with this, and probably very well qualified to speak about it. What are your thoughts on mental health in general? And then the next question right along with it would be, how do you manage your own mental health?
Yeah, we all need to understand mental health better and mental illnesses better. We've made some real progress over the years, but we all could do with a good, healthy educational dose, just like we understand other health issues, like if you had a brain aneurysm or if you had cancer that was eating away at your body or your brain, and all of a sudden, you weren't the same loving person, or a type of illness like a stroke that's affected you or a loved one, and it affects your speech and the way you act. And we understand those because we see it, and it's common. It's not taboo or something that we don't understand. But with mental health, it's happening inside, that person's mind. And there's chemicals that are, neurons that aren't docking correctly, and chemicals that are causing them. We can't see it any more than we can see cancer cells or diabetic sugar levels. In regard to mental health, when serotonin, let alone other chemicals in the brain, get off balance, they can actually cause people to want to do things that they normally wouldn't do, that person wouldn't normally do, let alone somebody that we would consider an average person, wouldn't even think of doing. And all of a sudden it's out of their character, because of something that's going on inside them with their chemical balance. And in some ways, the effects bipolarism, which is I'm bipolar or manic depressive, the same thing. In some ways, the effects bipolarism have on the brain is like a superpower, because someone who is manic, in the manic stage of manic depression, they'll express themselves as if they're unstoppable, and they have all of this energy. And I've noticed some people enjoy watching or listening what comes from that creative mind. Sometimes it's over creative, but that state of mind. I think of different people that I admired, or that are really popular that everybody would know, and they would compare me to those people. And they'd say, oh, you're so upbeat, you're so funny, you're so silly, you're so creative, I love that drive. And even when I was a teenager, some of that drive that made me a good percussionist and a good drummer was the chemicals that I had, or that were maybe causing me to react a certain way that other people loved, but I would have to come down off of that high safely, And what you're seeing in me is often mania, part of manic depression. You got the two poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. I tell my kids it's like the bipolar express, You go way up, but what goes up must come down. And I think perhaps in a lot of artists, what we're seeing is mania or sometimes depression being expressed through their art. And we're entertained by them because what's inside is coming out. But when no one is around is often when the harshest and ugliest characteristics of any mental health issue comes out. And with my son, he was in great shape physically, going to the gym all the time, and he was in great shape spiritually. He read, studied, and lived out the Word of God. And he shared it with a lot of people. He even made YouTube videos and published his own blog, and he's the one that encouraged me to start a blog. So although he was healthy and strong physically and spiritually, mentally he struggled. And one of the best examples I heard someone say was it's like a civil war going on in his mind. And he tried to manage it the best he could, but he got so sick of taking the medication and listening to how to deal with things, feeling like nothing could help him. He was just out of balance. He lost his balance, and he was overwhelmed with feelings and awful, awful desires. And he got so sick that those chemicals in his brain drowned out the normal balance or healthy, rational thoughts. He was only 22. And I remember when I was 22, I wasn't even aware what bipolar was. And my son was not only bipolar, but he had other mental health diagnosis too. I had some crazy thoughts, but it wasn't until closer to my 30s when I faced a bit more of external stress, things around me, that I met head-to-head with suicidal thoughts of my own. Wow. And it was in 1997 I was finally diagnosed. And I'll never forget when my parents actually came. I was admitted to a psych ward, and they read the description of what bipolar is. And my dad said, "Oh, he's always been like that." And it's true. It just never got out of control. But knowing what's going on with our bodies, our mind, and our souls is the first big step. And I've always said the difference between being really crazy and not being completely crazy is that you're aware that you're crazy. You realize, wait a minute, something's just not right. And if it's not
Welcome
treated,
to planet Earth. Welcome to planet Earth, Tom. Please continue.
If you realize, wait a minute, something isn't just right. And if you're not so stubborn that you don't believe people around you that love you are telling you you're a little off or something's just not right, or it doesn't have to be like this, when you admit that and realize it, no one likes being labeled crazy or disabled in any way, form, or fashion. But when you recognize how you may be different from the average person or the majority of people, that's the first real milestone in letting your disability and opposition present a new opportunity. The Mandarin, I'm not prolific in Mandarin, but the Mandarin word for hope is actually two words when translated into English, and that is opposition and opportunity. So our one word for hope, they break it down. It's actually two words for the Mandarin symbol for hope, opposition and opportunity. Without opposition, why would we even need hope? Why would we need things to be better? They're already good, But if you realize that you're, for some reason, you just don't seem to be thinking clearly, or you're angry all the time, or angry over the stupidest little things, there's a fog, going on in your head. Things are a little foggy. And if you have enough sanity to know that, it's going to be okay. It's not okay right now, but honestly, you admit your weakness, that something is wrong, and then you can get help. You can find out, well, how can this be managed? Because if you had a broken arm, you'd know, oh, my arm's broken. But when the chemicals aren't working right, it's a little harder. Sometimes it takes family or friends or a counselor to point this out, but we have to take the first step in the right direction toward thinking clearly. And we're like, I can't even think clearly. Well, then, some of the things that are going on that we don't understand, we have to go to a professional. And we realize that this is part of being human,
Yes.
And not every human being is exactly the same. We're all created equal and we're all human, but not every one of us is the same. Every one of us has a different fingerprint and different DNA.
Yes.
But there is help out there for us, before we become so ill that it leads us to an early death in one way or another, doing something crazy or committing suicide, And I also want to be sure to say that our physical, mental, and spiritual health is not always directly connected to each other, If you're not thinking clear and you're thinking, I believe God's going to help me, but you can't seem to get there. It doesn't all make sense, or you do something that's out of your character or out of what most people would consider Christian characteristics, and you're thinking, why would I ever do that? It's against my moral compass. But it's because the compass is trying to find north, and they can't find it. But it's not because of something we've done wrong spiritually. And it's not even because of our physical diet. We're not eating enough fiber or something. It's something going on with our mental health. It's not always connected to our physical health or our spiritual health. You could be in the best spiritual shape and time of spiritual awareness as possible, and yet physically or mentally deteriorating because we're immortal. We're not immortal. We're mortal beings. We're human.
We're here on the planet for X amount of years. I just want to interject here. You're making such wonderful points to take away the stigma, the shame, and the blame that so many of us live in, and the guilt and the anger that goes with it. And of course, these are all really unnecessary emotions for us to feel, and yet all of us deal with them. And there are all sorts of mental health verses in every scripture of every religion, including the Christian Bible. And the bottom line is that in my understanding of things, that each of us comes in with what I would call a spiritual contract, or a soul, S-O-U-L contract. And we've agreed to have certain experiences in our life's journey that will help expand our awareness, our understanding, help us grow as souls. And I think where we're really coming together now in common ground as human beings on the planet is to really be honoring of the other person's path, whatever it looks like to us, however we may want to judge it, to really drop the judgment, set it down. And
it may not be the same as yours.
Yep, absolutely.
That doesn't mean it's wrong. We're in this earth suit. We are all human, and we're in this earth suit basically, but our soul is still there, One of my favorite verses is from 2 Corinthians 4:16. It says, "Therefore do not lose heart. Therefore outwardly we're wasting away, yet inwardly we're being renewed day by day." Acknowledging that you have a soul. We all have a soul, And for me personally, in 1997, my suicide attempt was unsuccessful, and I got help. And it took that, and I actually took my wife at the time to say to me, you need to get help. I had been seeing a counselor before that because I was not sleeping well at all and just having all kinds of problems. But now to stay as healthy as possible so my mental health, doesn't take my life permanently, I continually keep myself in check. I journal a lot. I also take the medication that they've prescribed to me, and I keep taking it, not stop taking it because I feel better. The medicine keeps the right chemical balance. And for some people, they will maybe get onto a spiritual journey and think, well, I'll be okay now. Well, your spirit's going to be okay, sure, but your body or your mind, you're still human. So you're still, you're still going to encounter problems because that's part of being human. And, I also make sure to get enough sleep. That's very important to me. Not too much and not too little, When I'm manic, I feel like I don't need sleep or I can't sleep, you know. So
Wow.
it's a matter of some discipline. It takes some discipline. You have to be and willingness to realize that if I don't do this or if I do this, it's going to lead to more problems, you know. And in addition to this, I'm constantly trying to keep things in balance around me, you know, not just within me, but around me, which is, it's not always possible because there are certain things or people or situations and circumstances that are unavoidable, you know. But sometimes I have to avoid certain people or places or things because it'll make me too manic. I can't go see the Blue Man Group. There's no way, because it will just send me off into a spiral. You know, I have to stay balanced. Some things I have to keep, you know, I have to keep things around me in balance, and some things I have to hold on to, and other things I have to let go of, and spend more time in healthy environments than in unhealthy environments, because the environment can have a real effect. You know, I have to do things to help me unwind and relax. Back when I was with your show group, I didn't fully realize, but I kind of just had to do it naturally. And sometimes we would all go to Denny's or something, you know, and we would unwind and take that time to do that. You know, those recreational activities and rest and relaxation help recreate us, you know. So
absolutely.
You know, in turn, we then can create and enjoy it, accomplish things, and get that feeling of serving some type of a purpose, you know. But good, encouraging relationships are so important. You know, I still have 4 daughters. My son, unfortunately, did commit suicide, but I still have 4 daughters, Kiri, Olivia, Madeline, and Abigail, and my wife, Rhonda, you know. And I have 2 sisters and my parents, and they're still alive, and they're still very supportive. But it's those healthy environments that help, you know. I'm telling my 3 younger daughters, try to get along the best you can, and sometimes, you know, you can't divorce your sister, but you can divorce yourself from that situation, and you can go in the other room and say, okay, I need to be left alone for a little while, you know. And my family, you know, my family, along with my extended family and friends, who are just like family, it's important that we're all healthy and we share that same healthy environment.
I think you're setting such a great example, Tom. I know we're coming to the end of our time here, and I do want to ask you about Rhonda, your wife, and what she's doing these days. And you had shared a little bit with me about the healthy things that she's doing, and I know you share some, you know, creating healthy environments with her and relaxing activities. I'm understanding from you that Rhonda makes healthy bath products that enhance relaxation, and she also does some skincare things, I think. And of course, you know, we'll be posting all of these links for everybody to catch up with Tom and get familiar with what he's offering, and that'll be part of the podcast. So in the meantime, Tom, I'd like for you to tell us a little bit about Rhonda's products, please.
Yeah, well, Rhonda is a registered nurse. That's her full-time job. And then she has 2 part-time jobs. One is to try to keep me in line. That's the first one. And the other part-time job is she makes products. She started a company called Rhonda B's Bath Remedies. I like the ring of that. Rhonda B's Bath Remedies.
I love that.
Yeah, the products she makes aren't just so that you smell good, although I need that, you know that, but they can really have a great positive effect on your physical and mental health. You know, the products have natural herbs and essential oils in them, no chemicals added. So when you use them, you know, there's a healthy, positive effect. For instance, she has what are called bath bombs. Now, a lot of men might not be familiar with those. Apparently, a lot of women I've spoke to, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm like, I never really heard about that. Like the bath fizz or a bath bomb, you know. It feels good on your skin, and it has a great physical effect, but it's also very relaxing. It's a round ball that you put in the bath, and it doesn't explode, like you would think a bomb would, but it slowly dissolves and fizzes all over the place. But she also has she makes these shower fizz, which was really new to me, and I kind of was familiar with the bath balm. My mother used to have these little cubes, not round, but a little cube. But the shower fizz, you open it, and it can help open your sinuses and take away headache, and you're simply breathing in the mist. You open up the top of the canister, and just a few drops of water in there, and then as the shower is misting, you're breathing in the shower fizz. So, but the lavender soap, I mean, that really helps me. It helps my skin, but not just like a face scrub, but just soap with natural oils and essential herbs. And a lot of people, including me, love all the natural lavender soap that she makes because it has a great effect on your skin. But like I said, too, physically or mentally, it has a calming effect. I'm big on baths. Although we don't have a big bathtub, we have a small bathtub, but I'm able to get in there and I breathe in vanilla and lavender. My body absorbs those essential oils, and the fragrances just really relax me. So
we're now
I'm using them to help me,
Yeah. Well, we're now understanding the importance of essential oils, and they've long been neglected in what we would call modern medicine, but we're all uncovering these wonderful ancient natural remedies, which are very, very effective.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely, and lavender is a great relaxer of the mind. I love lavender oil myself. So we're going to give a shout out to Rhonda B's Bath Remedies. Yes.
Yeah, if anybody is kind of like, oh, I don't know, I don't believe in that kind of thing, you just try it, and if you're really honest, when you breathe it in, you're like, oh, I like that. There's just certain things, there's certain smells we don't like. There's other smells that we we smell and we go, hey, that has some type of restorativeness to it. That's why she called it Rhonda B's Bath Remedies, because it's kind of a remedy. Yeah.
It is, and that's what we need. Well, Tom, I know we're coming to the end of our time, and what I would like to assure our audience listeners is that there's going to come a time very soon when I will be inviting Tom to come back on the show and continue this conversation, because there is so much to be talked about and so much more to be offered than what our time today has allowed us. So consider this an invitation to return, Tom. Let our listeners know that as well. Just want to give a little bit of information about links that you can catch up with Tom and his wife and find out more about what they're doing. And we'll start with Rhonda's homemade bath and shower products. And if you go to www.rhondasbathremedies.blog. Now, let me take a moment and spell that. It's
It's Rhonda B's. Yeah. Spell it out,
so,
because it's Rhonda B's Bath Remedies, just all smushed together.
All smushed. Yeah, well, that's our technology. So it's www.rhondasbathremedies.blog. So Rhonda's Remedies. I'm going to say that again, rhondasbathremedies.blog. And again, this will be all in print for everyone to see. And then I want to let people know about your blog, which is at wordpress.com, and that is www.tombeetlebailey.wordpress.com. I'm going to spell that also, www.tombeetlebailey.wordpress.com. So these are all great, both rather great websites to go to. I've been to them myself. I would really encourage our listeners to explore. And Tom, I'm going to close with this. I know your son's name was Alex, and his final request to you before dying was, quote, "Don't let my writing die with me." And knowing that Alex did a wonderful amount of writing himself, I have one final link for our listeners to explore, and that would be https://lexbailey.wordpress.com. And I'm going to spell Lex Bailey, LEXBAILEY.wordpress.com. So for more wonderful writing, more inspirational writing, certainly something to explore. With that, Tom, I so thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I so extend to you my honor for who you are, what you've lived through, and your ability to retain your hope and help others. My friend, I salute you and I thank you.
Oh, praise God. Thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do and that you share and play in your part.
You're very welcome, and thank you. And on that good note, I'll bid our listeners a wonderful blessing from having shared this experience with us today, and I'll say to our listeners, see you next time. Again, Tom Beadle Bailey, thank you so much. So long now.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the show and host. This podcast and its content are not intended to diagnose or treat any medical or mental condition or substitute for proper professional care in this regard. You've been listening to the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, where your voice matters. We hope you have enjoyed this podcast and found inspiration for your own life. If you would like to be a guest on this show, please contact us at drhoperadio@gmail.com. That's drhoperadio@gmail.com. I'm Oliver Dill on behalf of all of us here at the Deidre Reigel Hope and Healing Radio Show, wishing you a day full of joy and goodness.